Welcome to the More to Life podcast. I am your host, Elle Mace.
And today we are joined by Emma Guns, who is a journalist and broadcaster and also the former beauty editor from OK. Hello, Emma.
Hi, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you. And yourself?
Yeah, good, thank you. Lovely chilly morning where we're warming each other up with a nice chat.
A nice chat. And this is what happens every time to me. I have an allocated slot for podcast and then I chat to my guests for too long and it eats into our podcast time. But we've luckily, we could have got on top of it just in time. So we have enough. So that is obviously your title, but please just give us a bit more of an explanation as to who you are and what you do.
Again, I feel like I'm a slashy in the sense that I've been in journalism for 25 plus years. So I've worked on magazines. I've been a section editor. I was the fashion and beauty editor of OK. I have been freelance. I contribute to titles like the Sunday Times Style. Who else? The Telegraph, Red Magazine, a few more that I can't remember now. You Magazine. And in and amongst all of that, I also have a podcast, which is turning 10 in 2026, where I used to love doing long form conversations with experts from all sorts of different fields. I think I mentioned to you before, like I had a guy who was the head of negotiation for the FBI on, a former Secret Service agent who had worked in the security detail for the Obamas, the Clintons and the Bushes, as well as loads of health experts. And it was just, I really enjoyed extrapolating advice and expertise from these incredible people who you'd never normally come across in your real life and take their insights and be able to give them to listeners to be able to use in their own life. Yeah. And so basically it was like, I love seeing the world through other people's eyes, but I think as soon as you start doing that, the world starts to get much bigger. Possibilities expand. The world just becomes more interesting, and seeing situations through lots of different lenses, I think just makes people better. It's like reading, isn't it? It's like the more you read, the more you know, the more conversations you have, the brighter and more interesting the world gets.
Definitely more interesting. The more knowledge you take on and have to also come up with your own decisions on stuff, which we touched on this in our chat. Today we'll be talking very much about kind of like food and body. And I know you've done a lot of work around this and how conflicting all the advice is that's out there.
Massively conflicting and incredibly confusing. And I think I said to you beforehand, it seems to be something that is more impactful on women.
Yeah.
It's the confusion around menopause, perimenopause, about our supplementation. It's so confusing when you compare to when you look at what men are fed, which is protein, creatine, strength. Like it's much more simple and linear. And I think women are fed so many different options that you end up sometimes doing too many things, or doing things that might cancel each other out, or just spending money that you don't need to.
That's what it comes down to. We spend the money. Obviously, men spend money as well. But I think the reason that there's so much more for more female-led is because we buy into it. And therefore, it's a money maker. And all of these products, they're there to make money.
They are, but I also think women are inclined to always be bettering themselves.
Yes.
Not saying that men aren't, but I think that women will always look for a way to feel better, to look better. We're always looking for that thing, that kind of that jump up, if you like. And that's why the market is saturated with all of these different options, because we'll give stuff a chance. We will give things a try because I think women are quite hopeful and optimistic in that way.
Yeah. And a lot of it comes down to like self-care, doesn't it? And just feeling like you're looking after yourself. And even if it's a bit of a placebo effect, you just feel better that you're doing, like you say, you're doing things to make you feel better.
Totally. I 100% agree.
So when we were chatting, you just touched on that you previously wrote a book.
A proposal for a book. The book has not been born.
Yeah. But your titles of it was kind of like really screaming to me about what the book might have been about in terms of like dieting and weight. And you touched on you've had your own experience then from your research. So could you just share with us a little bit more about your experience with your own body and relationship to food?
Yeah, of course. It all started when I was a kid. So around the age, I think of about 10, I started to gain weight, and it was an unusual weight gain in that sort of, you can even see it if you look at pictures of me when I was a kid. It was 1 minute, very lean, bouncy, sprightly, young, sort of pretty little girl child. And then over a very short period, slovenly, overweight, even didn't even look particularly bright-eyed, like obviously something was going on. And what I discovered subsequently when I was 17 was it was actually early onset PCOS. But that wasn't diagnosed for many years. So there were all of these hormonal issues. I had a much higher testosterone. So essentially, it's a very basic way to describe it, but you can almost say I went through boy puberty rather than girl puberty, in the sense that my hair density changed, like got alopecia, little patches of alopecia. I had a lot of facial hair. I also had a lot of body hair. I developed a very big tummy and just put on a lot of weight. What else? Really bad acne, just oily hair as well. You would not call it blossoming. And I think having looked with hindsight, I think that a lot of my issues with food came from that period of weight gain when it didn't really make sense. It wasn't necessarily that I was overeating and that meant that I was gaining all of that weight. But what happened is that very quickly, as I started to gain the weight, it would be like, oh, Emma can't have that thing, or you shouldn't have chocolate. So there was all of that. And bearing in mind, this would have been in the 80s when we were in the height of calorie counting and that kind of lean cuisine. There was lean cuisine, slim fast, Weight Watchers adverts in every ad break on TV. And it was back in a time when you would sit down and watch television in the evening and you would see these adverts many times. And I was very aware as like a 10, 11-year-old. I think I went to my first Weight Watchers meeting when I was 11. So I think I was very aware of the fact that my body had changed. I also didn't really necessarily understand why, but something I was very clear about was that it was bad, that I got bullied for it and my parents were trying to correct it because they were doing their best. This is not a criticism of my parents because they're lovely, but they were they take me to the doctor. She seems slovenly. She's put on a lot of weight, or she must be eating lots of food. She's not, because we're feeding her. She must be doing it in secret and all of these things. And so to have that unchecked necessarily, and only to find out when I was 17, which you think about how much you grow between 10 and 17, and that's a long time, to then find out, oh, there's actually a reason for this. But a lot of that damage was done, and I was eating in a way that was disordered and not helping the situation by the time I finally got that diagnosis.
Yeah, and those years are just the most vulnerable years, aren't they, for a young person just trying to figure out who they are, how they fit in, to be liked. And there is just such a pressure. Like your story resonates so much with me. I was like literally 9 or 10 and I started gaining weight faster than my friends. And I just went on this like mission to do something about it, which then caused high levels of disordered eating. So there's similarities.
Yeah, I just overate. I just had a lot of shame around food. And because I thought I couldn't eat certain types of food, it's so silly, but it was really fast food. It was like all of the sort of tropes of that era, like the 80s, of the food that was bad. And my food world got really small, but then I was like, I just really want stuff. Oh my God. And when I think about how I ate, even after I got my diagnosis, I was just awful. Like when I was at university, we'd just eat like bowls of pasta with loads of cheese grated on the top and stuff that you just wouldn't do now because you understand that's not really fueling you very well, or it might be tasty, but what's the bigger goal here? And if the bigger goal is to feel good, like actually your food can really assist with that.
Yeah. And at that age, we just don't have the tools and the knowledge. But also I think even that those that do have the knowledge, it's not a priority because you're young and you're free. And things have changed now because obviously the people in their 20s now are matchas and Pilates and stuff. But certainly when we were younger, it was like, let's go out and have fun.
Yeah.
And you may know that something's healthy or unhealthy, but it wasn't a priority.
Oh, God, no. And I also worked on magazines in the early noughties. And the drinking culture, particularly, I know on my magazine especially, like it was, right, Friday afternoon, magazine's gone to bed, pub. And that would be it. And you'd go to the pub and you wouldn't leave until closing time. And like you'd go to events and there'd be a tray of champagne. You're like, I'm not paying for it. And you'd drink as many as you could. And you weren't joining the dots. You just thought you were having a really good time. But I went to a press event last night and I was like, no, I'm only going to have 2 drinks because I don't want to feel terrible tomorrow. Just stuff that you just wouldn't say 20 years ago.
No way. It just wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
So that was going on for you like up until 17. And then after that, how long did you continue with this difficult relationship to food? And or did that go on for years, or did you quite quickly manage to get on top of it?
No, the diagnosis didn't actually in a weird way help. It
No.
almost, I think what it did, do you remember Gary Barlow always used to say about him and Take That? He's, I can look at a burger and I gain a stone. And he talks about the fact that like Howard and Jason and Mark could just eat anything, it'd be fine. I bought into a lot of the stuff that I was told when I got that diagnosis of it's harder for you to lose weight. You could eat lettuce and still gain weight. There was a lot of that kind of stuff.
The language.
So I thought I've just been dealt a really rubbish hand, haven't I here? And I think as well, just to mention, because I do think it's important, when you do have that sort of bodily change at a formative age, I certainly felt like I missed out on loads. I felt like boys didn't want to come anywhere near me, and all my friends were having their first kiss and all that kind of stuff. That never happened for me. So there was also, it arrested that side of my development, which I think is huge. But it wasn't until I was 41 that I actually got on top of my issues. Yeah. And the reason was I had a breast reduction.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'll have this breast reduction and then I'll look fine, because it's my boobs that are misshapen and big and I have to hoik them up all the time. And I had a breast reduction. I spent my savings on it. And I got home, looked in the mirror and was like, oh, you're fat everywhere. And it was just this moment of, it's almost when Homer Simpson screams, that noise happened in my head of, oh my God, I've just spent all this money. I've just had this operation. I was so focused on these boobs and the fact that I couldn't do shirts up and couldn't close coats and all that, and I wasn't seeing the bigger picture. And I remember just like everyone talks about when you have a surgery like that, you're like, oh my God, this is so exciting. It was just, I just cried. And then I thought, if this doesn't wake me up to the fact there's a bigger issue here, then nothing will. And it was I remember my friend Alex Light, I'd interviewed her for the podcast. I'm sure you know who Alex is, but she's very much in the body positivity space and she struggled with an eating disorder. And we had done this conversation and I'd gone round to her house and she said to me after we stopped recording, she said, I think you should read this book called Brain Over Binge by Katherine Hanson.
Yeah.
And I remember being really upset and like wanting to smash her in the face, being like, I don't binge. What the hell? It's called Brain Over Binge. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was really offended. But I realized now, because she had seen what I had been desperately trying to hide, which was, even from myself, which was this relationship with food that was unhealthy and toxic, where I would binge, but probably not binge in the way that I saw on made for TV movies back in the 80s, where you'd see some woman go to a drive-through and just eat loads of food in her car in a car park. It was a different kind of binging. But I remember thinking, okay, and I bought the book and it arrived. I think I ordered it on Amazon and it came within, and I cancelled my day and I sat and I read it with a ruler and a highlighter. And I was like, everything that resonates, you're going to highlight. And that book is so highlighted. And I thought, you know this now, you know that it's a messed up relationship with food. It's not textbook binge eating, but it's in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
So you know that you are actually, forget your hormones, forget what you're working against here is a mental illness. So fix that. And that was the beginning of turning it around. And throughout my 20s and 30s, I'd lost 30, 40 pounds, but then I'd gain it. And the way I would lose it would be to restrict my food really heavily and go to the gym a lot. Yeah. Like gym in the morning, gym at lunchtime, gym in the evening, sometimes 2 classes in the evening. Like it was just hammering it. And then inevitably I wouldn't be able to be consistent. And then I would just like, all the wheels would come off and woof, 40 pounds would go back on in the space of 3-4 months.
Yeah.
And so this was in 2019, had the breast reduction surgery at the end of July. By the following February, I'd lost 30 pounds. And then I've lost another 10 and then I've lost another 5 and I've kept it off. And I'm not saying that's easy, actually. I do think it's constant work. It isn't, but it is. I think I've maintained my weight now for a little while and I assume that it's going up because I'm not thinking about it. And previously, when I didn't think about what I was eating, I would be overeating. Yeah. But now I've relearned everything. And so when I don't think about it, I maintain my weight. But there's still that part of me going, but you sure? So I think it's lifelong work, to be honest. And it's like, I have to check in with myself on the semi-regular to make sure I'm not slipping into old habits, because I'll suddenly feel, oh, I haven't checked my weight, but I'm going to be bigger. And then I'll get on this and I'll start panicking and I'll start thinking about, oh, I won't have that. And then I'll just have prawns for lunch. And then I think, hang on a minute, get on the scale. And I'm like, oh, it's the same.
Yeah.
And then I think about everything that I've eaten and I'm like, haven't really thought about it, but obviously I'm making better choices for me that suit me. But there's always those tangles, I think.
Yeah, it's like that unconscious fear, isn't it? Like you felt so uncomfortable in yourself before because you were dealing with a mental illness, that there is that fear of, if I gain weight, I'll feel like I used to. And that isn't comfortable for me. That was not a nice period for you. But I love the fact that you've addressed you were dealing with mental illness. Like I see time and time again, people just searching for new supplements, searching for some sort of fix it external piece. But actually, when you have that realization and do the hard work, which is sitting down with that book, and I rate that book, and going through it and thinking that would have been such a challenge for you to do, to have those realizations and face up to, okay, actually, maybe this is what's happening for me, and then taking action. And I'm guessing from your description, your weight loss was over a long period of time. It wasn't like a quick
7-8 months. Yeah.
Yeah, so you weren't, because I see constantly drop 10 kg in 12 weeks and 10 weeks and people get sucked into it. And I'm like, if you've spent years in dietary chaos, which you did, you've just got to take the time.
Yeah, totally. And it was really confronting. And I think what was really interesting about that book is that I read it in, I don't know, 6 hours, literally sitting at this desk where I am now, just like lining, highlighter, ruler. And when you're paying such close attention to something, you just think, I cannot miss any of this. And I remember going to bed and waking up the next morning, and it was like it was like a software update. It was just, I now know this, so I cannot go back, because if I do, it's now a choice. It's not unconscious. It's not, it's knowing all of that and doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm sure that you have experienced this. So obviously, I actually didn't talk about the book or my weight loss for, I think it was nearly a year. But what happened was, on social media, is the phone just started to get a little bit further away, because I used to hold the phone when I do stories and Instagram. I used to hold it quite close because I was happy with that. But as I got a bit more comfortable, people were like, hang on a minute, have you lost weight? And then I wouldn't reply to them. I wouldn't answer. And then I did a video saying, look, I had my breast reduction. This is what happened. I read this book. And then I had Catherine on my podcast, and I wanted to share it. You hope that what works for you will work for other people. And what's really heartbreaking sometimes, even now, because I think I had Catherine on the podcast in 2020 or 2021, I'll get a message from someone saying, I read the book and it didn't work for me. And I think, oh no, then what else is out there? What else could it be? And it's because I just think, for me, I was able to extrapolate from that book what I needed in order to finally see, first of all, my unhealthy relationship with food, and then be able to take steps to remedy it, knowing full well that I knew the second I got into it, this is for life. This isn't a diet. That's the whole point. That actually trying to address a weight issue with diet and exercise alone is like bashing it with a blunt instrument.
Music to my ears.
It really is. But that's what I did for years. I just think, I know, we'll just beat it to death with diet and exercise and hope it'll die. But it doesn't. It
doesn't go anywhere.
It's a much bigger piece of work. And I don't know, you have more expertise than me, but when I say things like, I wrote a piece for the Saturday Times a few months ago, where I said, I sometimes feel like an idiot that I didn't take Ozempic, because it's still work every day. And I am envious at times when my friends who are on the GLP-1s tell me that they don't think about food anymore, because I think I do. I know that this is something I have to be cautious around. And so there's always a layer of thought that's going on that, in fact, God, now I'm really pulling at a thread, but I have friends who have recovered from anorexia who find my strategies scary to them, because they're like, but you're doing what I did when I was ill. And I'm like, yes, but it's with a different intention.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to, this isn't about control. This isn't about making myself smaller. This is about stemming what can turn into excessive eating. So I understand that sometimes when I weigh out my yogurt, you go, for me, that is a really safe behavior. But I do see my friends who've come at eating disorder issues from the other end of the scale, who look at the way, I can see on your face you have things to say about this, but who look at me and they brace themselves. And I'm like,
yeah,
I understand how it looks, but
yeah.
I'm telling you the intention is different. But I would be interested to know what your thoughts are on that.
No, so yeah, totally. The most important thing here is that you have awareness of this. So you are fully aware that behavior was very toxic for somebody else. And there's many people out there that actually weighing their food, we have to shift them away from that. It's the only solution. But then there are others like yourself in the context of your experience and what you're going through, which is helping you on your journey. So it's so subjective. What gets me is when I see influencers pushing people to weigh their food with no context of their relationship to food. But you have full awareness of this, which is more than most people have.
But also, it's for macros, because as a 47-year-old woman, I'm very aware that I have to, and I strength train. And that's a big shift as well, in that I used to run because thin people were runners. And so I used to run. When I had the come to Jesus moment of, oh my God, it's a food issue, the cause coming from inside the house, I was like, I'm going to start strength training, because scientifically, if I have a lot of lean muscle mass, I will become a metabolic machine, a more efficient metabolic machine.
Yeah.
So I would enjoy that. I would enjoy to burn more calories at rest. And if building lean muscle does that, excellent. Let's go towards that. Yeah. And so I'm very mindful of my protein intake for that reason. So one of the reasons I weigh out yogurt is simply so that I know I've got 200 grams of that. I know I'm getting 20 grams of protein after a workout, which is great for muscle protein synthesis. Boom. It's very simple. It's tied in a knot and it's over there now. But it's not about the volume or the quantity of food or the calories or anything like that. Yeah. It's about the macro.
Yeah. And that's it. It's the intention behind it. And actually you have given, and you don't need to explain yourself to anyone, but you've given an explanation and you have your intention. And I think you've gone on such a journey that you trust yourself to if you can tell it's tipping over into a bit too much obsession, or maybe the intention is starting to shift into like fear of weight gain or whatever it might be, that you can then take action to go, okay, hold on, we don't want to go too far that way. Let's just pull it back. And I say that to let everyone always asks me, what do you think of my behavior in this? What do you think of my behavior in that? And I was like, what's the intention behind it? What's the purpose of you doing that? And of course, weighing food a lot of the time just comes down to that feeling safer, because they can't trust themselves to make the decision or the right amount. So they have to hand it over to someone else, and it makes them feel better.
Yeah, I think changing portion control as well. And also for me, not snacking was huge, because I'd never really understood or made that connection between what I was eating and what it was doing to me physically, like how it was showing up. And so once I learned portion control, which was early phase, I got comfortable eating that volume and not needing what I used to eat to feel something else. Because obviously there was like an emotional feeling that it was satisfying. I'm never really connected with what that was, but obviously there was a reason for the overeating, getting to a certain point. But then I moved into volume eating because for me, I think I'm not someone who can eat like a sparrow. I do get quite a bit of satisfaction from sitting down, having a meal and it taking a while. But there's a big difference between doing that with a chicken salad with loads of beans, loads of shredded spinach and loads of other stuff going on and tons of flavor. Like I make massive chicken salads on my Instagram stories. I'm like, we're getting the big bowl out. And sometimes that will be because I'm tired. I feel like rubbish. I know that this makes me feel really good and it satisfies me. But an older version of me would have been like, let's get some bread. And 2 slices of toast would have turned into 4. And 4 slices of toast would have turned into 6. And it wouldn't have been in any way satisfying. And so I've relearned what food satisfies me. And there's nothing wrong with a buttered piece of toast. But for me, one was never enough. And actually, that's also something. There are certain foods for me that are trigger foods that if I have, I'll then be like, I'll just turn into a forager. Exactly. So in that sense, they are better for me to stay away from. They're not bad, but I just have an awareness around them of, I don't want to overeat. So I shan't have the buttery, white, delicious bread with salted butter. Because
the tiger bread.
shut up now, what are you doing? Yeah, exactly. All of that. So I haven't, yeah, it's not, I don't, for me, it doesn't feel disordered. For me, it feels like an awareness around what works, what doesn't. In the same way that like, don't put me in Zara and expect me not to come out with 3 t-shirts and an accessory. Do you know what I mean? It's the environment. And I think that's another thing is if you can make it benign, if you can make it lighter, then, oh my God, this is a terrible that I've got to stay away from certain types of food. No, it's my choice. My choice, because my longer term goal is to not feel crappy in my body, is to hopefully make all the right choices with my diet and my exercise that set me up for long term health. So when that becomes your overriding reason, then it stops being about what size trouser you're wearing or the weight or stuff like that.
Really hope you're enjoying the More to Life podcast and all the incredible guests that we have on. We also have plenty of other exciting things happening in 2026. The Elevate Day Wellness Festival is back on June the 12th. We also have a Spanish retreat and another retreat in the beautiful countryside of Devon. If you are interested, simply pop us an email or find us on Instagram at I am Elle Mace to find out more.
Yeah, like the shift away from that obsession over the scales is a healthy move.
Yeah.
And I know people that weigh themselves several times a day. And what is the benefit in your day here by doing that? And there's so many just natural fluctuations that are completely out of your control. And yeah, I think, yeah, exactly as you said it, if you can shift out from what that number is on the scale, what clothes, you'll be 2 different sizes in 2 different shops. Like you could be a size 12 in one shop and a 14, 16 in another or whatever. And if you can shift away from that and into like, how does my body feel? And like you've mentioned it a few times, like you're getting strong, like you're doing strength training, which is so beneficial. Like you have that shift into, I'm just going to feel more energetic, be able to fuel myself more, be able to do things that you want to do, concentrate for longer, just feel like you enjoy life a bit more.
Exactly. And I think that is something that I didn't for a really long time because I felt ashamed of how I looked and I didn't want to show up in the world looking like that. And even when I was on OK magazine, I felt really embarrassed about being the fat beauty editor. I'd go on press trips and be like, yeah, I'm with all the other beauty editors. Yeah, I'm the fat one. Damn it. I'd be like, it was so in my head that it was all about, that was my value. And it wasn't, but I made it so much of, oh, I'm probably, people won't take me seriously. I even remember when I got the job thinking, oh, it's really nice they gave like a fat brown girl the job. Because my real surname is Gunnar Wardner, but it didn't fit Instagram when Instagram started, so I shortened it to Emma Guns, and that kind of stuck, which is why I'm known. Like all of my friends call me Guns, but I remember like my surname being in OK magazine, Emma Gunnar Wardner, beauty editor, and it was a big byline on the beauty pages. I was like, God, that's really brave of them, and also she's bigger than your average what you would expect. I didn't look like a beauty editor, put it that way.
How toxic is that?
I know.
And society did that. Society that you actually thought that about yourself. It would take yourself back, like how much that would affect you every day, having those thought processes going through your head.
Yeah, and I didn't feel. Yeah, I just felt like I remember I used to do a lot of engagement photo shoots for OK magazine, and I covered a lot of weddings, like Jordan and Peter's wedding, for example, which is obviously goes down in history as like one of the most.
You got any juicy got on that?
No, I really liked Katie and Peter when they were together, and I really liked Katie. She could be tough, but she was whip smart, and I feel a bit sad about how things turned out, and for both of them, because they were really good fun when they were properly like together. The height of Katie and Peter, they were really good fun to do photo shoots with. But I did a lot of engagements and babies and things like that. And I think I was at OK from the age of 26 to 36. And I should have been having those things as well. Like it would have been really normal. And it wasn't happening for me. And I remember when I had a breakdown and had therapy, just being like, oh, I thought that those things were things that happened to other people. And when it came down to it, I didn't feel worthy of marriage, a relationship, somebody being in love with me, because I didn't feel like, I was like, I don't like myself, let alone, so why would anyone else?
Yeah. Yeah, it's such wasted time, isn't it? It's not wasted time because you've been on such an incredible journey with it and you're the person that you are today because of it. But I certainly felt like that in my younger 20s. I didn't go on holiday because I couldn't take a pair of scales on holiday. So how on earth would I weigh myself? That was just wasted opportunities when I should have just been running up and down a beach, enjoying myself. I was like sat in the corner in all the towels and like boiling hot. It's a shame. But
it's sad, but it is sad. And I feel really sad for old me. But I also think, I remember my mum saying once, in a way, maybe it's a good thing that you had those teens where like you were overweight, had lots of facial hair, bad acne, patches of hair loss and greasy hair, and just I was a lump. And I can say that, sorry if that offends, but I can say it and look at it and be objective and go, yeah. But she said, but you were such a lovely looking little thing. And she sometimes I wonder whether it was for the best that you went through that, because if you had just blossomed, maybe you wouldn't have developed a personality.
your personality was always there from that moment you were born.
No, but she was like, you couldn't, basically, she was like, if you had always been a pretty little thing, you might have always leveraged that rather than turning into somebody a bit more interesting. But I think she's just saying that to make me feel better.
I love it. It's a mum's job, isn't it?
It's a mum thing, isn't it? Yeah.
It's a mum thing. Let's find a silver lining somewhere.
Yeah, but can I ask you a question now? Because obviously you're the expert in this. I'm having a little bit of a crisis at the moment in terms of, as we've talked about, it's obviously, this has been going on for me since I was a young girl. And I have been on my own journey. And obviously everyone is on their own journey. And it's a really highly emotional topic for everybody, and everybody views it through their own highly emotional, highly personal lens. I speak to a lot of women who get in touch with me who want to have the same journey that I've had. And it will be from, can you share with me all of your content about overeating? I would say at least 4 or 5 times a week, I get a DM from somebody saying, it's like you have said out loud what has been going on in my head for ages. And yet I'm beginning to worry that I'm not about those women in particular, but I feel like because of my lens, I sometimes feel like I lack compassion for other experiences, because for me, I feel as though there is agency. One has agency. One can have that moment and look at themselves and think, actually, I don't like how this feels, so I want to change it. And I have definitely had conversation with people who say it's not as easy as that. That's not everybody's experience. And so I don't want to be that person who says you just have to have your moment. You just have to have your sort of, I don't know, light bulb moment, because I feel like that's quite patronizing. But I'd be really interested, because what I don't want to do is become somebody who feels as though they lack compassion for other versions of a similar story.
Yeah, totally. And again, I've touched on this before, but like the fact that you have that awareness is amazing. And everyone's journey is so different. And we know that this is a mental health condition, which means this runs deeply psychological for people. You know, and yours will do too. If you had this from 10 to 41, that's many years. You've just got so many different aspects playing into this: the psychology, biology, the society, you've got genetics, you've got someone's current environment. Somebody could want change, but their environment isn't supporting it through difficult relationships. You've got the ability to regulate your emotions or not, which is a huge thing. And most people who are of similar age to me and older will really struggle with that, because it's only become apparent that's such an important thing. We're doing a really good job on our kids now, but we missed out on that piece of education. So there's so many different aspects to play into this. So when somebody has an attempt at recovery and maybe isn't successful, it could be any of those parts. And for you, it was the right time. You were ready. You know, the fact that you were advised to read a book and you bought it immediately and digested it in one day screams that you were just hell yes ready. And you do need to get to that point. Well, not everyone does, but many people do. If you're really in the depths of it, like I had to get to lying on the bathroom floor, crying my eyes out, screaming, I cannot do this ever again, like that. And I had to get to that point. I tried recovery many times before. So, you know, you do have to be really ready, because it takes so much work. And it could just be that someone's trying to recover, but their energy isn't there, maybe because of how they're eating. But also, it takes so much emotional energy. And some people, because trauma is such an attached link to how we eat, if you're going to go on that journey, you're highly likely going to be working through trauma, which for some people is absolutely terrifying and could unearth all sorts of things. Yeah. And then for somebody else, it could just be habit and behavior, and there's less of an emotional attachment. So for when you're describing your journey to me, which is so top line, so I'm not saying it's this or that, but I'm hearing that actually you looking at your habits and behaviors gave you quite an acceleration in your recovery, which is great. For somebody else, they could look at that, but actually the weight of the psychological side and physiological side and all sorts is pulling them back too much. So it's very difficult. That book that you spoke about, it does focus a lot. It is heavy on kind of behavior and tools, whereas somebody else might need a book that's more focused on, I don't know, well, so many parts of this. It's just more self-worth, just more like the actual day-to-day self-care, self-worth might give them a bump up. So there's not one way. There's not even 10 ways. There's a million different ways for the millions of different people who struggle with this.
Can I ask you also, and the reason this is relevant is because I told you about Alex Light and the fact that she recommended the book. And around that time, actually, it was when the body positivity movement really was gathering pace. And I remember another friend sitting down and just saying, listen, Emma, you're always upset about your weight. You're always like, we always talk about it. You're always doing this thing in the gym. You're always trying this diet. It's what's going on here. And then she said, stop weighing yourself. Like, just find a way to fall in love with your body. And I did have a go at it for a while. Like, I stopped weighing myself, and then I gained a lot of weight after I didn't do that for 3 months. But I tried it and it just didn't stick for me because I didn't enjoy how it felt physically. But I think on some level, I also knew that there was something going on in terms of behavior that was unhelpful. So I just couldn't align with this idea of, yes, okay, I'm going to love my body as it is. This is fine. I'm going to wear the swimsuit, because it was always going to be a bit of a fib to myself. I could have probably tried, but it was always going to be a fib that I was happy in my body. And so again, that's the lens that I've got. And so I have to be somewhat careful, obviously, about how I communicate that, because for other people, they do not care what shape or size their body is. And I am delighted for those people to not be caught up in knots in their head about their body, because obviously it's something that I think you and I have spent a lot of mental and emotional real estate on. But yes, where do you stand on that? Just love yourself in a bigger body.
Yeah. So for me, the where I stand is, again, is so subjective to the individual. So I promote people really embracing like who they are. Everyone has a natural set weight point, and we can manipulate it to a certain extent. Many people will try and push it too far down. I've got natural set weight point. When I was in my 20s, I was trying to force that so much lower than what it actually was. So my body was constantly fighting against me, which meant chaotic binges, ended in bulimia, etc. Everyone has a natural set weight point, and I do feel you have to really try and work on embracing that and working with that. But again, for me, it comes down to health of the individual. So there will be somebody who's in a larger body, but is fitter and healthier than somebody who's in a slimmer body.
Yes.
I know many thin people who are miserable. I know many that are happy. I know some that are very healthy. I know some that are very unhealthy. Same with people in larger bodies. I did a half Ironman. There was women who were in much larger bodies absolutely smashing it, right? So it's down to the individual's health. And I always just ask that when people question me on this, check in with yourself. If you feel healthy and you are happy and you can do everything that you want to do in life and you're okay with your weight, then great. But if there's a barrier, you've got medical issues, as you're unhappy, there's something else going on there, then look into it. But also just be really clear that weight loss doesn't equal happiness. The amount of people who have gone on a weight loss journey and then they get hold of me and say, why am I still miserable? Why do I still hate my body? Because you've got these mental health, it could be body dysmorphia, it could be body dissatisfaction, the eating piece. You know, we need to step away from the delusion that you got your breast done, you were hooked onto the fact that would maybe create peace and happiness.
Yeah.
For you, it's, for me, here a success story, because at that point you looked into the psychological side of it. There will be some people in that piece who will then go and get a nose
tummy tuck, yeah,
and they'll just keep going on this journey. There is an element you do really have to try and find that self-love, and also step away from the physical body. You will love your body more if you love who you are, if you love your personality, if you love your quirkiness and your like weirdness and all that sort of stuff. It's amazing how then the kind of pressure on the body comes off when you actually realize I'm a great person and I've got so much to give.
Yeah. And that all that stuff when I talked about being okay and feeling ashamed to be the bigger beauty editor probably didn't matter to anyone else but me, right?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely. Like that is all going on in your head, and everyone else is oblivious and doing their own thing.
And it's that life limiting stuff where you think, oh, this is why things haven't gone that way for me. And again, it's like a barrier it stops you seeing the truth. It's like a comfort blanket, isn't it? Oh, this is why this hasn't happened for me. It's because of that. Rather than, it could be because I'm not as good at writing. You know, all of these, it could be because of other things, but you're like, it must be because of that.
Yeah, totally. Like that's a whole conversation there. That's kind of the ego doing what the ego does, keeping you stuck in your little shitty box because you're safer in there. And actually, Emma are okay. Oh my gosh, what if she felt incredibly confident and loved herself so much? What if she became like famous? Oh, it's just too scary. Lock us away, stay like this. Yeah, it's all so complicated.
It's really complicated. And it's really interesting to have this conversation. I've definitely, because I've talked about my journey on my Instagram and on my podcast, I do get a lot of messages from people. And I want to be able to give other people the experience that I had. And obviously that's unfortunately not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I want to try and have the best sort of rounded response, which I think, so for me, this conversation has been really helpful.
Amazing.
Picking up on your expertise. Thank you.
Oh no, thank you for coming. I've really enjoyed it. I think I say this all the time. I have such amazing guests on. I'm always like, we're going to do a part 2. So everyone turns into a part 2 because I just enjoy it so much. But thank you so much, Emma. Could you just please share where people can find you?
So if you go into your preferred podcast platform, you can type in The Emma Guns Show and you'll find me there. On Instagram, I'm at Emma Guns. I also have a Substack, which is The Emma Guns Show or Emma Guns on Substack. I can send you the links for the show notes. But those are my main platforms. I also have a YouTube channel, but I'm a little bit infrequent with that because let's face it, it's a lot uploading audio, video and all sorts every day.
Oh yeah, lots. It's a double full-time job. Thank you so much, Emma.
Oh, it's been lovely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed listening to this episode, then please head over to give us a rating. We would really, really appreciate that. And as a return, send us a screenshot of your rating and we will send you a free 45-minute hypnosis for absolute daily motivation. This is a must listen to every day in order to create your best future self.